Tori Petry here in Xfinity Studio after the conclusion of the 2021 NFL Draft. We're looking back at the Lions 2021 draft class with Tim Twentyman and Mike O'Hara from DetroitLions.com. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me here this week after the draft. Let's look back at the picks that the Lions made. Tim, I'll start with you. What is your overall assessment of the draft class the Lions came away with?
Well, I think they got really a lot more athletic. You just look at some of the guys, starting with the first three picks, the big guys, obviously Sewell on the offensive line, and then, Levi and the defensive tackle out of Washington, and Aleem, defensive tackle out of NC State. I just think those guys not only are big, strong guys, but they can move. They're nimble. They're space players as well. And so, I think you're bigger, you're physical, you're more athletic, from the wide receiver right down to the cornerback. I mean, these guys are physical freaks with strength and speed and size. And so I just think they're a bigger, more physical, more athletic football team after this draft.
Well, speaking of bigger, physical, more athletic, I think Penei Sewell qualifies for all of those things. He was the Lions' first-round pick. Mike, you and I talked about him in depth before the draft on the podcast. He was a guy that you really liked, and the Lions ended up getting him. What's your assessment of that first-round pick?
I did 4 mock drafts on that, which is about what I usually do every year. And all 4 of them, I tried somehow to do the draft so he'd end up at 7. And I think he was there in 1 and not there in 3 other ones. And look, I thought there were other good players that they could get, but that's the guy for the Detroit Lions. That's the guy I really thought would help them the most. Now we'll find this out down the road exactly how they play is determined it was. But I thought just sort of maybe fate smiled on the Detroit Lions for a chance because they got the guy. I'm sure that was their number 1 guy.
Yeah, we say the phrase, they got their guy in the NFL when it comes to draft picks, but it really seemed true watching the reaction that Brad Holmes and company had after making that pick. And he even said there were 3 guys they really liked, Penei Sewell, obviously one of them. Mike, how do you feel like he changes that offensive line?
Well, first of all, the Lions liked him. He liked Detroit, too. That's what I liked. And one other thing, when I saw some videos of him, like, God, he looks big. And then when I saw him on the presser here in Detroit, he's taking up all of Allen Park. The guy's enormous, and he's built though. He's built like an athlete. I think. What does he do? He steps in at right tackle and he completes from left tackle to right tackle. The Detroit Lions are complete from all 5 positions now. I think they're okay plus depth. I think the only decision they have right now, I would think, is at right guard. But even if you got 4 of the 5 that you've nailed down, that's a pretty good percentage in the National Football League.
All right, so the Lions went offense on day 1. A lot of people predicted that offensive tackle position, but some people had some questions about defense and how they were going to address that. The value in this draft at the top of it was on offense, but the Lions went all defense on day 2. I'm going to take this opportunity to say all 3 names because I've been practicing them. Defensive tackle Levi Onwuzurike, defensive tackle Aleem McNeill, and cornerback Ifeatu Melifonwu. Those were all of the day 2 picks. Tim, why do you think it was so important for them to go defense on day 2?
A strong effort there. I'm going to still go first names and nicknames. So, but obviously we all watched those games last year. We all knew what they need. Any fan of the Detroit Lions knows that they just weren't good enough defensively. You look at all the major statistical categories on defense, the Lions were in the bottom of all the major ones. And so they had to improve on that side of the football. And I thought Brad did a good job in day 2, filling need. I thought their biggest needs were at linebacker and defensive tackle in terms of the defense. And look, you go, your 2nd round pick, you get a stout defensive tackle, a guy who I really like down at the Senior Bowl. I got a chance to talk to him down there. I know you were down there too, Tori, but he was, I thought, dominant that first day. And then he got, soft tissue injury and didn't practice the rest of the week. But that day 1, I mean, he was getting through, one-on-ones. He was busting by guys before they even had a chance to get out of his stance. And so you talk about being big and strong. And with Levi, I would add quickness to that too, and a burst off the first step. I think he's going to give them an opportunity to, get some pass rushing prowess from the interior, something they didn't have last year. They only had 4 sacks from their interior guys last year. And look, you ask any quarterback in the National Football League where they hate having pressure, and every single one will tell you right up the middle in their face. I think that was a weakness for the Detroit Lions last year. And so now you grab a guy like Levi, and then you get Aleem in the 3rd round, another guy defensive tackle, big body guy, right? Bench press is 445 pounds and squat 640. But you looked at the tape and there's some quickness there too. He had 5.5 sacks in 2019. So I think both those guys, allow you to play them, I think, all the way from the zero technique, the nose tackle, to the three. And Levi even played out wide, at defensive end sometimes at Washington. And so I think they give you some versatility. I think they give you some strength. And I think, they give you some stoutness in the interior of that defensive line, which is something the Lions had to come out of this draft with.
Well, another thing a lot of people thought the Lions were going to come out of this draft with was a wide receiver. It wasn't until day 3 that Brad Holmes addressed that spot, taking Amon-Ra St. Brown. Mike, were you surprised at all that the Lions waited until day 3 to take a receiver?
I wasn't surprised at all, and I didn't know anything, but I wasn't surprised at all. I thought that they would, whatever their board was, they would follow their board, and I think that that's what they did, and that's how he got there. I went to, there's a guy named Dane Brugler who does these ratings for The Athletic, and first 5 players the Lions drafted, 4 of them were drafted higher than they were rated. In other words, if they were, for example, Penei Sewell was rated 5th. He was drafted 7th. You go down to one of those defensive linemen, they were projected as a maybe a round and a half lower than where the Lions got him. So I thought they drafted for not just necessarily for need, but they drafted for value. And I think that the wide receiver really played into that also.
Real quick, one little nugget on the wide receiver. I talked to Greg Cosell today, and he breaks down the draft every year afterward, the executive producer and analyst for NFL Matchup. I think one of the best in the business in terms of breaking down prospects. And just one nugget from that article that's either going to come out this afternoon or tomorrow is he compared the wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah. He compared him to a Keenan Allen coming out of California. That type of player doesn't have that long speed, but really strong, great 50-50 guy, strong hands. And so I thought that was obviously quite the compliment for St. Brown. Now we'll see if, that's obviously, I don't want to put too much pressure on the kid, but just from watching the film, that was one little nugget Cosell had. He loved the kid and thought it was terrific value where the Lions got him.
And I'd like to add one thing too. I was, for the closer looks things we do, try to get the comments from an analyst, and Louis Riddick of ESPN, when they were doing the draft coverage, said of the cornerback that the Lions got, there's no reason he can't be a superstar. Well, there are a lot of reasons you can't be a superstar, but he just gushed on him. And look, Louis played defensive back in the National Football League, got into personnel, now he's into broadcasting. So I'll go by what he said. That seemed to be was a pretty strong comment and a pretty good sense of what this kid means to the Detroit Lions defensively.
Good stuff, guys. And then they go for a linebacker there in round 4 as well. They traded up to get him right after taking St. Brown there in the 4th round. Tim, what do you feel like Barnes adds to the linebacker position?
Versatility. A ton of versatility. I think when you look at him, he's explosive in the box, but you love the fact that, look, he was an edge rusher when he first got to Purdue, and that's where he played. And then he moved back his senior year in 2020 and played the Mike linebacker spot. I mean, talk about a guy who's versatile and has different kinds of traits. When you can play as an edge rusher and then, step back and play as the Mike and handle all the calls and all the defense and everything else. I think he's smart. When you watch him, he's explosive. And I think he's going to offer some versatility. He can play inside on 1st and 2nd down. And then look, if Aaron Glenn's going to have some kind of 3-4 looks on this team, there's a guy on 3rd down now that you can be, pretty versatile with. You can throw him on the edge and rush him. So, I think he offers a lot of different stuff. And one more just quick preview from Cosell. Cosell loved the guy on tape. And so I'll leave what he had to say specifically about him, but there was someone he compared him to in the NFL that I think Lions fans will be excited about too. So there's your tease.
Yeah, that's what they call a teaser. So head to DetroitLions.com later this week, because that article will be up and you can read everything that Greg Cosell has to say. And guys, we had to wait a while for the next Lions pick after that one. Mike, did you get a nap in or anything like that, waiting for that 7th round pick to come around?
Yeah, I did. I made sure I didn't drink any coffee after the 5th round or anything like that. But yeah, talking about the running back now from Oregon State, Jermar Jefferson. Look, there's a history there. Yeah, Oregon State is sending good running backs to the National Football League. And I went and did a little bit of research just before this. You go back to Steven Jackson, from the drafted by the Rams, 1st round draft pick at 8. 1,000-yard seasons for the Rams. Borderline Hall of Fame player. I'm not saying this kid is borderline Hall of Fame, but everything I hear about him is he's a very smooth player, very aware, and one of those guys you can put in there and can protect the quarterback. And that's, if you heard what the Lions have said in the offseason, protecting the quarterback is number one for the running backs. Just ask Deuce Staley. Replay that clip, and you'll remember exactly what protecting the quarterback means to Deuce. And whatever Deuce likes, I would like if I was a running back.
One last question for you guys here. Tim, as we look back at the 2021 draft class, what tone do you feel like this sets for Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell's new regime?
Well, I think they found some foundational pieces, not only good football players, but when we talk to them, after the picks too, sounds like good guys, the guys that really love football, want to play ball. And both, Brad and Dan talked about, getting guys in here that want to be about football, that have certain kind of traits. And so, I think obviously they're all really good athletes. They've got some versatility, but they're guys who love ball too, from talking to them. And I think that's just kind of the culture that Brad and Dan are trying to build here. And I think all those picks, all 7 of them, kind of align with that philosophy.
Good stuff, gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me to break down this 2021 draft class from Xfinity Studio. I'm Tori Petry.